India, too, has declared an open door policy, importing and exporting higher education programs and services. One example is the tie-up between the Caparo Group, a UK firm with interests in steel, engineering and hotels, with Carnegie Mellon University in the US to put up a new campus in India. Foreign universities, of course, have also penetrated Southeast Asia. You don't have the slide for Vietnam? There it is. Okay, so if you take a look at Vietnam, it's pretty aggressive. And the next slide is going to show you Thailand, which is just as aggressive too. Maybe we can speed up the animation so it goes tuk tuk. Yeah, that's Vietnam. Okay, but of all the countries, the leading player in the region is Singapore, driven by its desire to be an education hub and also, I think more importantly, to attract and retain the world's best talent. Now, unlike the neighbor, Singapore exports services, and China is a particular target of Singapore. So, the landscape has changed, but the cracks are showing. In 2006, after 8 years of operation, the biomedical research facility of the Johns Hopkins University in Singapore shut down. Singapore, actually, the government just stopped funding. They said the key performance indicators were not met, including enrollment targets for PhD and the migration of foreign leading medical researchers. Okay, barely a year after the closure of this facility, the Singapore campus of Australia's University of New South Wales announced its departure. This after only 1 semester of operation. And the reasons given by New South Wales were low enrollment and large financial losses. Apparently what happened was that the the targets set for international and overall enrollment were unrealistically high. And there was also, it was compounded by a risk factor of, local resentment. Because, in Singapore, the public universities allow only 25% of the students can get into public universities, the top. The rest you go private. Okay? And in New South Wales, they were dedicating something like 70% for international students. So, elsewhere, of course, the region is the academic quality of the new foreign providers. Speaking of Asia's open door, this is the new open door policy, Philip Altbach, who directs the Boston College Center for International Higher Education, he wrote, and I'm quoting from him, "With few exceptions, foreign higher education providers worldwide are engaged in making a quick profit by establishing programs that attract high student demand and are inexpensive to start and operate. Worldwide, many of the foreign transplants are in information technology, business studies, and related fields. Most foreign providers are not top universities. In their countries, they are at the middle or bottom of the hierarchy. Some have financial or enrollment problems at home and want to solve them with offshore ventures. And some are bottom feeders who will provide a substandard educational product." I'm still reading from him. "A truly open door permits pests as well as welcomes guests to enter. And international experience shows that the market is slow to detect low quality, and, this is unfortunate, there seems to be a clientele for poor quality in any case." I will return to Altbach's remarks later when I talk about the Philippine case. So the concern with quality does not stem only from the entry of foreign providers, the global mobility of students at all levels, the regionalization of higher education systems like the Bologna Accord in Europe. Okay, these have all created a new regime of higher education standards. The length of basic education is now standardized at 12 years, as Dina pointed out. We are the only country remaining in the world with 10 years. Our partner, Botswana, recently abandoned us. So, university academic credits must be comparable so that they can be transferred across HEIs. Though different, the two league tables, Times Higher Education and Shanghai Jiao Tong University, are often cited when tracking the performance of universities. Now, notwithstanding the shortcomings of these measures, listen to what some universities are doing. Some have taken aggressive steps to really better their performance. German universities, for example, and they do not figure prominently in global ranking. That worried their government. They recently launched the government's what they call Excellence Initiative. Okay, some $2.3 billion, okay, are going to be funneled to just a handful of German universities over the next 5 years. And you will see it's a very tiered process. If you read the literature about it, some were shocked that the universities we know, Humboldt, and these are really top of the line, they didn't even make it to the end. It's really quite tough. Anyway, what this initiative will do is create an elite core of German research universities that can compete globally, while the rest of the HEIs serve as regional institutions. Now, China has its own counterpart. I notice East Asia, they like numbers. Japan is Global 30. China calls it the 985 project. Don't ask me why. I don't know. And the aim of the 985 project is to propel its best universities up the global league. You know how much? $4.4 billion. They have earmarked for 36 institutions. I think over the next 5 years, some 40% of this amount has already been awarded to China's 9 leading universities, and note, more investments are in the works. These staggering amounts are accompanied by equally aggressive Chinese research collaboration, not just with British and American universities. If you look at the latest Thomson report on research, they do this every year for a country study. And I took a look at the one of China. The highest collaborator of China now are countries in East Asia: Singapore, Japan, and South Korea. This is why Thomson Reuters says, and I quote, "Asia-Pacific nations are entirely happy to work with one another's excellent research bases now. They no longer depend on links to traditional G8 partners to help their knowledge development. When Europe and the USA visit China, they can only do so as equal partners." With India in the picture, an Asian regional intellectual network has taken form. Indeed, last year, the government of India announced it would create 30 world-class universities, 8 new Indian institutes of technology, and 7 Indian institutes of management in the next 5 years. Huge investments are also being planned to upgrade higher education and raise the salaries of professors by almost 70%. Closer to home, the Malaysian government selected 4 universities. One of them is USM, University of Science Malaysia in Penang. Malaysian government selected 4 universities as research universities with the goal of ranking 1 or 2 of them in the world's best 100. And the Apex University model, I think that's what the Malaysian government calls it, is of course accompanied by massive government funding. The Thai government has similarly chosen to invest in a handful of HEIs designated to become Thailand's research universities. Our government, in contrast, has gone the opposite direction, creating more and more substandard SUCs it can hardly support. Not just nations, but regions are responding to changes in the global education landscape. In Latin America, 2 initiatives have taken place among HEIs to draw up a common regional credit transfer system, and their system is compatible with the European credit transfer system. And in our part of the world, Japan is taking the lead. I'm going faster than my teleprompter because I know what I wrote. In our part of the world, Japan is taking the lead in formulating a single framework together with China and South Korea, because they want just one so that they can have transfer credits among the 3. And guess what? Japan wants to bring in universities in the ASEAN, and they are meeting this very month about that. So our table thus far is groaning under the weight of questions we need to think about as a result of these global changes. How do we ensure the quality of foreign higher education providers in the Philippines? Do we need them in the first place? In which fields? Where in the country do we put them? How do we respond to global standards, such as a 12-year length of basic ed, global criteria of academic performance, in the context of our present situation, our nation's pressing needs, are research universities necessary or relevant? And what do we think of Japan's proposal to create a regional credit system for East and Southeast Asian universities? Should we take part in it? Now, before we consider these questions, let me point to two effects of the internationalization process. One is the diminishing hold of higher education over post-secondary learning and the creation of knowledge. Global credentials for the practice of professions in IT and human resource development training are making college degrees unnecessary. You know, these Microsoft exams that are, for its various software, they yield credentials that are recognized worldwide.